All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And with this video, I'm going to be doing my second NFL mock draft post combine edition. And now that the combine is officially over, I thought this was a good time to go ahead and post this. If you do enjoy the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you agree or disagree with anything, leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. But with that being said, let's just hop right into this, starting off with the Tennessee Titans with the first overall pick here. And with this pick, I think the Titans can go any direction with this pick. In my first mock draft, I had them taking Abdul Carter. But for this mock draft, I think I'm just going to have them take Cam Ward here. I think as we get closer to the draft and more news about these prospects start to surface, I think it becomes more probable that Ward will be the first quarterback taken off of the board. I think he's a really high level processor and has the ability to thrive within the pocket both pre and post snap. Ward has great arm strength as well, and he can make every throw needed at any area of the field. I think Ward is levels above all other quarterbacks in this year's draft, and that includes Shedeur Sanders as well. And he is the pick for the Titans here as their potential franchise quarterback. Moving on to pick 2 in the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, so Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland. While the Browns are reluctant on trading him, I think it's more than likely that Garrett will be elsewhere in the future unless he changes his mind. So I have them taking Abdul Carter here, defensive end out of Penn State. Carter has really elite instincts and has playmaking abilities who can play all over the front seven. He has phenomenal speed and explosiveness that allows him to cover a lot of ground. And his ability to rush the passer with power and precision, I think, makes him a constant threat in the backfield. I think Carter has the potential to be an all-pro caliber player in the NFL. Yeah, so Carter over there, I think he would be a good pick for them for the Browns. But moving on to the Giants at pick 3, I had them taking Travis Hunter. Again, best player available on the board here. It was reported that the Giants were interested in Matthew Stafford before he decided to take a pay cut and ultimately stay with the LA Rams. Now they are rumored to be interested in Aaron Rodgers as a potential quarterback for the team in 2025. So I'm not too sure if Shedeur Sanders even goes this high anymore. So I had them taking just the best player available, and that's Travis Hunter. Hunter is a versatile chess piece, and as you guys well know already, he plays corner and wide receiver. So I think he'll immediately bring an elite playmaker to their roster. Patriots up next, and yeah, so first mock draft I had them taking Will Campbell. I don't think I changed my mind here, especially now that Trey Smith is franchise tagged. I thought they were really going to be interested in him coming out of free agency. But Will Campbell makes a lot of sense here. I think the tackle guard debate for Campbell will be a hot topic this offseason. But regardless, I think the Patriots need help everywhere on the offensive line. Campbell is the most talented offensive lineman in this year's draft, in my opinion. Though Armin Membo does deserve to be in that conversation as well. I just think his production and tape check out as a top 5 draft pick here, so Will Campbell makes a lot of sense. Speaking of Armin Memdo, though, I have the Jaguars taking him at pick 5, tackle slash guard out of Missouri. Membo has been gaining a lot of steam recently that he could potentially be taken this high. He has good tape and tested extremely well at the NFL Combine. Not only that, he is still only 20 years old and would be a nice pick here for the Jaguars. Yeah, so they're losing Brandon Scherf in the free agency here. I see Armin Membo projecting as a tackle though in the NFL, but he could obviously slide in the interior if needed. But yeah, I think he'd be a good pick. I think he's really rising up draft boards, especially after the NFL Combine, and sneaking into the top 5 is a potential for him here. So moving on, Las Vegas Raiders, and I have them taking Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Yeah, so I have Raiders going with the best defensive player available here. I don't think Graham is necessarily going to blow you away with his length or testing, but his tape is good enough to trust, and I think he would really fit well with Pete Carroll's defense and what he likes out of his interior defensive lineman here. So moving on. New York Jets. This was really tough for me as well, but I ultimately have them taking Will Johnson out of Michigan. Will Johnson opted not to run the 40, so it'll be interesting if he runs the 40 at his pro day. I'm curious to see what kind of 40 he would run, but I think the Jets really need a corner. I think it's a sneaky need as well now that the Jets are set to lose DJ Reed to free agency. I think Johnson will replace him really well in Aaron Glenn's defense. Johnson has a really nice fluidity and footwork, and his tape shows a player who can immediately contribute as a rookie. I really like Will Johnson. I think he's has one of the best tapes coming out of college at the cornerback position, and I think he'll still be drafted fairly high. But moving on, pick 8, Carolina Panthers here. And yeah, they really need defensive help, especially on the defensive line. So I have them taking Shamar Stewart at Texas A&M. Stewart put on a showcasing at the NFL Combine and has definitely skyrocketed his draft stock. The Panthers really need a lot of help on defense, especially on the defensive line. And while Stewart didn't have much sack production in college, I think his tape really shows the value he adds to the edge and his ability to affect the backfield. Yes, so his combine was absolutely absurd. He had one of the best combines out of any players out of this past year's combine. He's a really athletic freak. I think he'll shoot up a lot of people's draft boards, and I can see him being taken as high as the 8th overall pick here for the Carolina Panthers. But pick 9 here, I have the New Orleans Saints taking Mikael Williams out of Georgia. They really need defensive line help, especially at the edge. I think Williams has the length and physical tools to be a solid defensive end in the NFL. And while his 2024 season saw low production out of him, I think he is an amazing run defender with the potential to be a great pass rusher as well. Yeah, so Mikael Williams here with the Saints. Moving on, though, with the Chicago Bears, as you saw in the thumbnail, I had them taking Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. I think new head coach Ben Johnson will find it necessary to have a talented playmaker like Jeanty on his offense. For example, like how they had Jahmyr Gibbs and how high they took in him with the 12th overall pick a few years back. But I think this move would immediately elevate this offense and give Caleb Williams another weapon as well. Nothing really needs to be said about Jeanty. I think his tape and production says it all. But I think this would be a really fun pick here for the Chicago Bears, especially now that they traded for Jonah Jackson as well, so they don't really have to push a need for the offensive line, or especially in the early rounds as well. But pick 11, San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, so I had them taking Mike Green out of Marshall. Green does bring some concerning off-field issues with him, but if everything checks out, I think he would be in play here for the 49ers. He has the play speed and violence to be a disruptive player, and he has really excelled as a pass rusher and run defender. I think Green is still raw in my opinion, but has unbelievable upside at the defensive end position. So yeah, I think Mike Green is a great pick here. A lot of off-field concerns, but I think he's one of the best edge rushers in this year's draft class. So I think if everything checks out, I think he would be a great pick here for the 49ers. Moving on, though, Dallas Cowboys pick 12, and I have them taking Ted McMillan out of Arizona. I think adding another playmaker on offense is vital for the Cowboys. Besides CeeDee Lamb, there really isn't anyone to help elevate their potential. I think McMillan will bring his rare size and athleticism to the table, as well as his unbelievable catch radius and ball skills. I think this would be a perfect fit for the Cowboys. I mean, yeah, besides CeeDee Lamb, I don't know who else they really have. I mean, besides Brandon Cooks and maybe Jalen Tolbert. But they need to add a real alpha threat with CeeDee Lamb as well. But I think this is a perfect fit here for Ted McMillan and the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. So moving on, we have the Miami Dolphins up next, and I'm going to be giving them a player that is rising up draft boards as we speak, and that is Nick Emenware, safety out of South Carolina. The Dolphins are potentially losing Javon Holland in free agency, so Emenware fits a need and potential best player available for them. In regards to the Emenware versus Starks debate, I think Emenware will be the probable favorite of being the first safety off the board in this year's draft after his ridiculous performance at the Combine. He's a freaky athlete with good tape as well. He probably had the best Combine performance out of any player in this past Combine. He tested extremely well, and I can see him being drafted especially this high with the Miami Dolphins here. But moving on, pick 14, the Indianapolis Colts here. And this is a very popular mock, but they it makes a lot of sense. I mean, they really need help at the tight end position. So I have them taking Tyler Warren out of Penn State here. They're in a desperate need to add a playmaker at the tight end position, and I think Warren is the best tight end in this year's class. With Warren's diverse skill set, I think it would immediately bring a weapon to the Colts offense. Yeah. Nothing else needs to be said. Big need for tight end, and you take the best tight end available here. So it works both ways at that point. The Atlanta Falcons up next, and I have them taking Jalon Walker out of Georgia. Right here. Yep, perfect. Falcons are in need of desperate help at getting talent on their defensive line. I think Walker brings a diverse skill set of being able to both rush the passer and potentially play off-ball linebacker as well. I think he is more likely to be projected as an edge rusher, but either way, I think he has potential to do both. Yeah, I think he's one of the more fun prospects in this year's draft. Just his versatility at edge and linebacker makes him very intriguing. But I have them going to the Atlanta Falcons here at pick 15. Moving on, pick 16, and someone that's also rising up draft boards after his combine performance especially is Donovan Iziraku. So I have the Cardinals taking him at pick 16. Iziraku was one of my winners in this year's NFL Combine. The Cardinals could use some help on the defensive line, and Iziraku brings all the athleticism and physical tools to be a solid edge rusher in the NFL. So yeah, he's been rising up draft boards, especially after his NFL Combine. So this makes a lot of sense for the Arizona Cardinals here. Pick 17 though, Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, so I just have them taking Jahdae Barron. They need help in basically all facets of their defense. So you take the best player available, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So you end up with Jahdae Barron here, cornerback. Barron has inside-outside versatility at corner and performed really well at the combine. I just think he is the best defensive player left on the board at the moment, so I have the Bengals taking him, which fills a need as well. So it just makes sense here. Moving on, pick 18. And I have the Seattle Seahawks taking Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. I think this is best player available at this point in the draft as well. He can play Mike, Will, and edge. He can compete with Knight for the starting spot at the linebacker position and is great in coverage and blitzing at the linebacker position. I think he would be a great fit in Mike McDonald's defense here for Seattle. Pick 19, and we have Luther Burden III out of Missouri. Yeah, so with Chris Godwin set to hit free agency, I think Burden would be a perfect replacement for him. I think Burden excels best in the slot and is a dynamic playmaker with the ball in his hands. He also had a solid combine performance that should solidify him as one of the top wideouts in this year's draft class. But either way, I think Luther Burden would be a great addition to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially if they lose Chris Godwin. Moving on, another popular pick here is Colston Loveland for the Broncos. Same situation as the Indianapolis Colts here. They just need help at the tight end position. They need to add playmakers there. And especially with Loveland's pass-catching athleticism, I think it will give Bo Nix another weapon to use on this offense. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Now pick 21. And I have a big disclaimer to my friends, Weston and Drew. If you're watching this, I'm sorry for who I am about to draft for the Steelers here. You guys know me. I'm a Doctor Strange main here for Marvel Rivals. So it's only right for me to check all possible outcomes for the NFL draft. But with this pick, I have them taking Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado at pick 21. Yeah. So in my opinion, I don't view Sanders as a first round pick, but it only takes one team to take a chance on his skill set. So there is a chance Sanders could fall out of the top 10, and the Steelers are in need of finding an answer at the quarterback position. Shedeur happens to fall here. They're willing to take a risk at the quarterback, and so this just makes a little bit of sense. I'm sorry, though, if this is very unpopular, but I had to do it. I mean, he slipped here. It makes a lot of sense. Why not? Why not? Please don't hate me. Moving on, though, pick 22 in the LA Chargers. I had them taking Matthew Golden in my first mock draft. I think this just makes so much sense here. Golden had especially after his great combine performance, he showed his elite speed by running a 4.3 40-yard dash. the Chargers could look to add someone with his skill set to their offense and really just give Herbert a deep threat option at the wide receiver position. And they're also set to lose Joshua Palmer as well to free agency. So they only have Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnston, who actually played quite well his sophomore season. But I think adding a deep threat would really elevate this offense to the next level. Moving on, Green Bay Packers pick 23. And yes, so this is really tough for me. They really need help at the cornerback position. Eric Stokes is set to leave for free agency. There's a whole Jaire Alexander discourse that he might be released as well. So I was thinking cornerback here, and I was thinking edge as well, but I decided to go with Kelvin Banks Jr., tackle slash guard out of Texas. I think the Packers have a really sneaky need on the offensive line, particularly at offensive tackle. Banks could project there with the potential to kick inside as well. Plus, the Packers might have to readjust their offensive line with Josh Myers set to hit free agency. So I think Kelvin Banks makes a lot of sense. I don't know if this is a popular pick. I don't know if it's the right pick, but it could be a pick for the Green Bay Packers. Pick 24 in the Minnesota Vikings, though, and I have them taking Siobhan Revel Jr. out of East Carolina. Yeah, so I think Revel would have been a higher pick if he had not torn his ACL early in the season. But if his medicals clear out, I think he is a first-round talent. And the Vikings desperately need help in the secondary as they are set to lose multiple players in their secondary to free agency. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense for the Minnesota Vikings here. But moving on, pick 25. Man. Yeah, so I had them taking, I believe, Luther Burden my first mock draft. And I was thinking about taking an offensive lineman here, but Mika Ekbuka makes just so much sense here. I mean, he just slips to 25. He has a connection with CJ Stroud. They really need a sneaky need for wide receivers. Stephon Diggs is set to hit free agency here. Tank Dell is still recovering from a season-ending injury. So this just makes too much sense. I don't see how they could pass up on Emeka Ekbuka here. But yeah, so moving on. Pick 26. LA Rams. They're keeping Alaric Jackson at tackle. They moved on from Jonah Jackson. So I had them taking interior offensive line here, and that is Tyler Booker out of Alabama guard. Yeah, so Booker had one of the cleanest positional workouts at that combine, in my opinion. And I think getting him at pick 26 is a steal for them. 27, though, Ravens. If I know the Ravens are very good at drafting, especially in the early rounds. They've always drafted best player available. So I have them taking Malachi Starks out of Georgia. And this kind of fits a need to them as well, as they just released Marcus Williams. So yeah, I think he would pair really nicely with Kyle Hamilton. Although Starks did not test well at the combine, he looked great with his positional drill, showing his fluidity and instincts as a defensive back. I think he's a versatile defender that fits Baltimore's defensive style. So I think this makes a lot of sense for them. But pick 28 here, Detroit Lions. And then I have them taking James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Pierce had a really lackluster performance at the combine, in my opinion. He tested really well in the 40, but horribly in his jumping drills. He also comes with character concerns and was rumored to not have interviewed well with teams at the NFL Combine. I think he is a first-round talent, though, that could potentially slip due to those concerns. But I think the Lions are a good fit because of their culture that they have in Detroit with Dan Campbell, and I think he can easily rotate into their pass rush and not really be a full-time pass rusher for them yet. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's a good landing for James Pierce as well. 29, though, Washington Commanders, they just traded for Deebo Samuel. And so I just still want them to build around Jaden Daniels. So I have them taking Josh Simmons, tackle out of Ohio State. If not for Simmons' injury, he suffered early in the season. I think Simmons would have potentially gone way earlier in the draft. If the medical's clear, I think this is a good steal for the Commanders. Again, I think he's a really high-end talent in this year's draft. Unfortunately, he did suffer that season-ending injury for Ohio State, so he does slip here. But I still think this is a very good steal for them. Buffalo Bills here at pick 30, and I have them taking Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky, another top NFL Combine performer. Yeah, so Hairston put on a phenomenal performance at the NFL Combine. He clocked in the fastest 40-yard dash from any player with a 4.2840. And with the Bills losing Rasul Douglas in free agency and the need to retool their secondary, I think this makes a lot of sense. Hairston is not only fast, but he also has really great coverage skills too, which is hard to find. So I really like this pick here for the Buffalo Bills. Kansas City Chiefs up next, and the Chiefs franchise tag Trey Smith recently, so we will see if he gets a contract extension with them or not. Either way, the Chiefs need to address the offensive tackle position, specifically at left tackle. So I have them taking Josh Conerly Jr., tackle out of Oregon. I think he has all the physical tools you would want in an offensive tackle, and I think this is really a no-brainer pick for them. Last but not least, the Super Bowl reigning champion Philadelphia Eagles. And I have them taking Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Yeah, so the Eagles just take the best player available here. And Walter Nolan just happens to fall to them. With Milton Williams set to leave for free agency, I think this fills a need for the Eagles as well. And I think he would fit in nicely with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis in the interior defensive line. So there you have it. This is the Mock Draft 2.0 post NFL Combine edition. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like. I would greatly appreciate that. If you want to see more content like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But I did hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you guys take care, and I'll see you guys next time.